Fannin County in the North Georgia mountains is at the top of the state where the borders of Tennessee, North Carolina, and Georgia all mingle. There are many old bridges in Fannin County, each of whose history bears witness to the distant past. Some of these bridges are no longer used, yet they still stand as sentinels to what once was. You can find them if you pay close attention. In fact, a road trip through Fannin County in search of these old bridges makes for a pleasant drive on a Sunday afternoon. Most of these bridges were built in the early 20th century made of iron and steel. At the time, they were modern innovations, replacing older wooden covered bridges, which were in turn torn down. As a result, there are no longer any wooden covered bridges remaining in Fannin County today. Now, a century later, as history repeats itself, will we allow this vintage iron and steel to disappear? Or should we find a way for these old workhorses to be preserved and embraced as part of the heritage of this county? This is a tour of what once was and what survives. The Heritage Bridges of Fannin County. Historic Shallowford Bridge was built in 1918. It's at a place just downstream from where a shallow ford was located. That is, a shallow place in the river that allowed for easy crossing. Shallowford Bridge is a riveted Pratt through truss design with a total length of 174.9 feet. The bridge span is 125 feet, with a deck width of 11.2 feet. Shallowford Bridge is eligible for the National Register of Historic Places. Old Dial Bridge was built in 1938. It is one of 56 Warren Pony Truss bridges with vertical dimensions recorded in the 1981 Georgia Historic Bridge Survey. If that was the surviving number in 1981, then how many survive today? The bridge that spanned this site prior to the 1938 steel bridge construction was a wooden covered bridge, which was torn down. On the Toccoa River between Lake Blue Ridge and McKaysville, you'll find the remaining iron and steel skeleton of Curtis Switch Bridge. Though the bridge is much longer than Old Dial Bridge, the design is the same, a Warren Pony truss with alternating verticals. Hogback Bend Bridge was built in 1915. This bridge is a metal, 7-panel pin-connected Pratt through truss design. The main span length is 125 feet, which matches the length of Shallowford Bridge. You might say that Hogback Bend Bridge is the older sister to Shallowford Bridge, having been constructed 3 years apart. At the time of its construction, it claimed to be the first steel bridge to cross the Toccoa River in Fannin County. So, for no particular reason, county residents proudly posed on its span in 1922. Sadly, this geriatric iron and steel survivor needs some additional support. The Louisville and Nashville or L&N Railroad Bridge is also at Hogback Bend, just downstream from what was the Vehicular and Pedestrian Bridge. Though it is minimally used today, this is an impressive railroad bridge with a metal 7-pin connected Pratt through truss design. In 1936, the McKaysville Concrete Bridge was built, which eased up what must have been intolerable traffic through downtown McKaysville by straightening the road route through town. This bridge is a concrete cast-in-place design. The McKaysville Steel Bridge, just a block away from the concrete bridge, has an interesting history that is still being talked and debated about to this day. This is a steel truss through stringer multi-beam or girder design. It was originally constructed between 1920 and 1921 over the Toccoa River much further south of its current location. The original location was part of the Blue Ridge to Blairsville Highway, which now resides under the pristine waters of Lake Blue Ridge. And much like other bridges in this story, this bridge replaced an earlier covered bridge over the Dakota River in the 1920s. In 1930, when the lake, which was known at the time as Lake Toccoa, was about to be filled, this bridge was disassembled and stored somewhere, and we're not quite sure where. In 1936, after the McKaysville concrete bridge a block away was completed, the steel bridge was hauled to this site and reassembled. This bridge replaced an earlier bridge in McKaysville constructed on the same site in 1911. And much to the chagrin of Hogback Bend Bridge fans, it was the first steel bridge over the Toccoa River, built 4 years before Hogback Bend Bridge. Prior to the 1911 bridge, you crossed the river in McKaysville on a ferry or elevated pedestrian walkway. The CSX Railroad Bridge just south of McKaysville was built in 1926 for the L&N Railroad and later acquired by CSX in the 1980s. The main span is 299.9 feet long, and the Blue Ridge Scenic Railroad currently uses this bridge today. Many of the old bridges in Fannin County are now lost, having been demolished, yet we still feel their presence. The loss of their history, a blemish on the record of preservation, and sadly, there are many blemishes. As history repeats itself, will we allow these remaining heritage bridges to disappear like the covered bridges of generations past? Or should we allocate funds for a few of these old workhorses to be preserved and embraced as part of the heritage of the area? We've already lost so many. Surely finding the resources to preserve a few is a reasonable investment for future generations who will wonder why it didn't happen if we don't.
Bum, 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 bum,